The night rain sliced through the darkness like broken glass, and the single dad stood knee-deep in mud on the side of a deserted road, hands trembling from cold, staring at a stranger's dead car while his own child waited alone at home, trusting him to come back. Before the story pulls you any deeper, pause for a moment right here. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing good when no one is watching, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. Ethan Walker had learned long ago that life rarely asked if you were ready before it tested you. At 36, he was already tired in a way that sleep never fixed. His wife had died 3 years earlier after a sudden illness that burned through their savings and left him with more questions than answers. Since then, his world had narrowed to two things: keeping his 8-year-old daughter Lily safe, and surviving one more day at a time. He worked as a mechanic at a small garage by day, took odd repair jobs at night, and counted every dollar twice before spending it once. That evening, he had finished a late shift and was hurrying home, worrying about Lily doing her homework alone under the dim kitchen light, when he saw hazard lights blinking weakly ahead on the empty road. He almost drove past. His phone buzzed with a reminder that rent was due, his gas tank hovered near empty, and the rain soaked through his jacket. But when he slowed, he saw a woman standing beside a luxury sedan, her shoes sinking into the mud, her expression a mix of frustration and fear. The engine was dead, the road silent, and there were no houses nearby. Ethan felt the familiar war inside his chest, the battle between what he could afford to give and what his conscience demanded. He pulled over anyway, because he knew what it felt like to be stranded, invisible, hoping someone would stop. The car was expensive, the kind he had only worked on in magazines or rare dealership jobs, and the woman looked completely out of place on that dark, rural road. Ethan checked the hood, rain dripping down his nose, fingers numb as he diagnosed the problem. A simple fix, really, something a tow truck would charge hundreds for. The woman offered money, a lot of it, her voice shaking with urgency, but Ethan shook his head and focused on the work. He thought of Lily, of the lessons he tried to teach her about helping others even when it was hard. He tightened the last bolt, wiped his hands on his jeans, and turned the key. The engine roared back to life like it had never been broken at all. The woman stared at him in disbelief, gratitude spilling out in broken sentences. Ethan smiled politely, waved off her attempts to pay him, and simply said that sometimes people just needed help, nothing more. He drove away before she could say much else, not realizing that as he disappeared into the rain, she stood there watching, committing his face to memory. That night, Ethan arrived home later than usual. Lily was asleep on the couch, a blanket half fallen to the floor, her notebook open beside her. He carried her to bed, kissed her forehead, and sat alone at the kitchen table, exhaustion pressing down on him. He wondered if he had been foolish to refuse the money, if kindness could really pay the bills, or if it was just a story people told themselves to feel better. Outside, the rain softened, and silence crept into the small apartment. Then there was a knock at the door. It wasn't loud, but it was firm, confident, the kind of knock that didn't belong in his building at that hour. Ethan's heart raced as he opened the door to find two men in dark coats and the same woman from the road, now dry, composed, and surrounded by an air of authority that made the narrow hallway feel suddenly small. She introduced herself as Margaret Hale, and with a calm intensity explained that she owned more companies than most people could name, that she had spent her life surrounded by people who calculated every action, every favor, every word. And when her car had died on that road, she had expected the same: help with a price, kindness with conditions. What she hadn't expected was Ethan. She had sent her team to find him, not to repay a debt, but to understand why someone with so little would give so freely. Ethan stood there stunned, embarrassment creeping in as she spoke of his generosity like it was something extraordinary. He tried to explain that he was just doing what anyone should, that his daughter was sleeping down the hall, that he didn't have time for whatever this was. Margaret looked past him, at the small apartment, the peeling paint, the quiet dignity of a life held together by effort alone. She said she didn't believe in coincidence anymore, only in moments that revealed character. What followed changed everything, but not in the way Ethan expected. She didn't offer him a suitcase of cash or a dramatic rescue. Instead, she offered opportunity, mentorship, a chance to partner in a new automotive initiative focused on affordable repairs for struggling families. She said she wanted someone at the heart of it who understood what it meant to choose kindness over profit. Ethan's first instinct was to refuse. He was a mechanic, not a businessman. He had failed before, trusted the wrong people, been burned by promises that sounded too good to be true. But Margaret didn't pressure him. She left her card, told him to think of Lily's future, and walked away, leaving the door closing softly behind her. For days, Ethan barely slept. He went to work, fixed engines, packed Lily's lunch, and stared at that card like it might disappear if he touched it too much. Fear wrestled with hope, and for the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine something more than survival. He called her. Months passed, and life began to shift, slowly, carefully, like dawn creeping over a dark horizon. Ethan learned, stumbled, grew. The garage he helped build became a place of honesty and compassion, where people weren't judged by their cars or their clothes. Lily laughed more. The apartment felt less heavy. And sometimes, late at night, Ethan thought back to that road, that rain, that moment he almost drove past. If this story has touched something inside you, if it's reminded you that one small act can echo further than you ever expect, please take a moment now to like this video, share it, and let us know you're here. Your engagement helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. And before the ending, I have one special request for you. Please comment the word kindness if you believe that doing good, even when it's hard, still matters in this world. Years later, when asked how his life changed so suddenly, Ethan never talked about billionaires or opportunities. He talked about rain on his hands, a broken car, and a choice made in the dark. He taught Lily that you never know who's watching, but that shouldn't be the reason you do good. Sometimes, the greatest rewards don't arrive in money or fame, but in the quiet knowledge that you were exactly who you needed to be, when someone needed you most.